Welcome to World Information HD, your go-to channel for uncovering the most extraordinary stories hidden in everyday objects. Today, we're diving deep into the world of numismatics with our countdown, the top 13 most valuable and rare U.S. Lincoln pennies, pieces so rare they've fetched millions at auction. From wartime minting mistakes that produced pennies struck on the wrong metal planchet, to dazzling diorama coins and historic key date issues, these little cents pack monumental value, and even bigger stories. Join us as we reveal which pennies make this elite list, and why they're more than just change, they're priceless relics of American history. Every penny tells a story, and sometimes that story is worth far more than the coin's face value. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most intriguing and mysterious coins ever struck in the United States, the 1969 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. On the surface, this might look like an ordinary coin, the kind you might find rolling around in your drawer or sitting at the bottom of a jar of change. But behind its simple copper shell lies a tale of rarity, history, and value that has captured the imagination of collectors for decades. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why this particular penny has been able to reach staggering prices at auctions and why you might want to check every single penny in your pocket change carefully. Let's start at the beginning. In 1909, the United States Mint released the very first Lincoln cent, replacing the Indian head penny. The new design, featuring the portrait of Abraham Lincoln, was created by the sculptor Victor David Brenner. It was the first time a real historical figure appeared on a U.S. coin, and it was a bold move at the time. The Lincoln cent quickly became one of the most iconic and enduring coins in circulation. For over a century, it has remained a staple of American currency, beloved by collectors and casual users alike. By 1969, the Lincoln penny had already been in circulation for 60 years. The coin's design had seen only minor changes, most notably in 1959, when the reverse side was changed from the wheat ears to the Lincoln Memorial to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. This new memorial reverse allowed something quite unique. For the first time, you could actually see a tiny image of Lincoln himself inside the memorial, making him appear on both sides of the coin. It was a small but fascinating detail that many collectors admire. But what makes the 1969 no-mint mark penny stand out among millions of others? After all, billions of Lincoln pennies were produced during that year, so what sets this one apart? The first thing to understand is how mint marks work. A mint mark is a tiny letter on a coin that tells you where it was made. In 1969, pennies could be struck at different locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Denver coins carried a small d, and the San Francisco coins carried an s. Meanwhile, Philadelphia, the original home of the U.S. Mint, traditionally struck coins without a mint mark. That means if you look at a penny from 1969 and you don't see any letter under the date, it's from Philadelphia. Now, here's the twist. While millions of Philadelphia pennies were made in 1969, the no-mint mark varieties that are especially valuable are tied to a fascinating history of errors, variations, and confusion. In fact, the year 1969 has become famous in coin collecting circles not only because of normal issues, but also because of one of the most famous errors in U.S. Mint history, the 1969 double-die penny. But while the double-die coins often steal the spotlight, the no-mint mark coins have a unique story and surprising worth of their own. So, what should you look for when examining a 1969 penny? First, check whether there's a mint mark beneath the date. If there is no mint mark, you might be holding a Philadelphia issue. But not all Philadelphia pennies are automatically valuable. Millions of common ones still exist. What really gives this coin its edge in the collector market is a combination of scarcity, condition, and demand. Condition is one of the most important factors in determining a coin's worth. Collectors use a grading system that ranges from poor, meaning the coin is barely recognizable, to mint state, where the coin looks nearly perfect and has never been used in circulation. A 1969 no-mint mark penny in average worn condition might only be worth face value, but one that has been preserved in excellent condition, bright, shiny, with minimal scratches, can bring in serious money. The thrill of coin collecting is that these treasures often slip through the cracks. Imagine picking up a penny off the ground, thinking nothing of it, only to discover that it's a rare 1969 no-mint mark cent worth thousands. That possibility keeps collectors hunting through rolls of coins, jars, and even bank boxes, hoping to strike gold, or in this case, copper. Speaking of copper, it's worth noting that pennies struck in 1969 were made of a 95% copper and 5% zinc alloy. Each one weighs 3.11 grams, which makes them slightly heavier than modern pennies. Today's pennies are mostly zinc with only a thin copper plating, so the older coins carry not only historical value but also a distinctive metallic weight and sound when you drop them. To collectors, those details matter. They connect the coin to its era, to the history it lived through, and to the hands it passed between. Now, you might be wondering, how did such a common coin become so valuable? The answer lies in rarity combined with collector demand. When a particular issue or condition is scarce, collectors are willing to pay a premium to own one. And when more than one collector wants the same coin, bidding wars at auctions can drive prices sky high. The 1969 no-mint mark penny has achieved legendary status among coin enthusiasts because it embodies that perfect storm, a common date on the surface, yet a hidden rarity when examined closely. In high grades, these coins are not easy to find. Many were lost to circulation, spent carelessly, or worn down beyond recognition. Only a small fraction survived in the pristine condition that collectors crave. Stories have circulated for decades of people discovering valuable pennies in the most ordinary places. A dusty jar of change inherited from a grandparent. A handful of coins given as change at a grocery store. A collection of rolls from the bank that had never been searched. Each story adds to the mystery and allure of the 1969 penny, reminding us that treasure hunting doesn't always mean digging through the earth. It can mean sifting through pocket change. The Lincoln cent has always held a special place in American culture. For children, it's often the first coin they learn to recognize. For collectors, it can be the beginning of a lifelong passion. And for lucky individuals, it can be a ticket to a small fortune. That's why the 1969 no-mint mark penny continues to captivate interest, drawing both seasoned numismatists and curious newcomers alike. Let's also not forget the era in which this coin was minted. The late 1960s was a turbulent time in American history. The country was grappling with social changes, the Vietnam War, and shifting cultural norms. Against this backdrop, everyday objects like coins carry a special historical weight. They were part of daily life during a transformative period, a reminder of what people bought, spent, and saved in those years. Holding a 1969 penny is like holding a piece of that history in your hand. For many collectors, the thrill is not just in owning the coin but in connecting with the story it tells. And this particular penny tells a story of rarity, value, and the hidden gems lurking in plain sight. So, why should you care about a coin that's worth only 1 cent to most people? Because in the world of coin collecting, knowledge is power. Knowing what to look for can mean the difference between spending a penny and cashing in on a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And the 1969 no-mint mark Lincoln penny proves that even the smallest coin can hold incredible value. As we wrap up, here's the key takeaway. Always check your change. That penny you almost ignored might not be ordinary at all. It might be one of the rare and valuable issues that collectors dream about. And in the case of the 1969 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, the potential reward is astonishing. After decades of being overlooked, this humble copper coin has made headlines and found its place among the most desirable pieces in U.S. numismatic history. And in the right condition, the 1969 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny has been known to reach the jaw-dropping value of $53,008. Welcome back to the channel, where we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and the surprising stories behind the pennies in your pocket. Today, we're exploring a coin that many people might overlook but could hold an incredible value if found in the right condition. We are talking about the 1974 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin that might look ordinary at first glance, yet holds an extraordinary place in American coin history and in the wallets of collectors worldwide. When most people see a penny, they don't think much of it. After all, it's just 1 cent, a small copper coin that often gets lost in couches, car cup holders, or tossed into a coin jar without a second thought. But what if I told you that a single penny from 1974, struck in Philadelphia without a mint mark, has the potential to be worth thousands of dollars depending on its condition? That little copper piece you might dismiss could actually be a rare gem hiding in plain sight. The year 1974 was an interesting time in American history, not just politically and culturally, but numismatically as well. Pennies were still being struck in large numbers, and the familiar design of Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse was still in place. This design had been introduced back in 1959, replacing the iconic Whittier's design, and it carried with it a sense of tradition. By 1974, the Lincoln Memorial reverse was already well known, but collectors were beginning to pay more attention to small variations, mint marks, and quality grades that could make some coins far more valuable than others. The 1974 penny is particularly fascinating because of the materials and minting process. Traditionally, pennies were made of mostly copper, but the U.S. Mint had been experimenting with different metals due to rising copper prices. In fact, 1974 is a year that numismatists often discuss because of the existence of experimental aluminum cents that were produced but never released to the public. These test strikes have become legendary in the coin collecting community. But while the aluminum cents are nearly impossible for the average collector to find, the standard 1974 no mint mark copper penny is something you might still encounter, and under the right circumstances, it can be worth a lot more than a cent. Let's take a closer look at the coin itself. On the obverse, or front, we see the familiar portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner back in 1909. His profile faces right, with the word Liberty to his left and the date 1974 to his right. If you have a Philadelphia penny from that year, you'll notice there is no mint mark beneath the date. That's the key identifier. No D for Denver, no S for San Francisco, just a clean date. Flip the coin over, and the reverse displays the Lincoln Memorial, complete with its steps, pillars, and even a tiny representation of the seated statue of Lincoln inside. Above the memorial is the phrase, United States of America, with E pluribus unum in smaller letters, and below the structure, the denomination 1 cent. Simple, elegant, and iconic. Now you might be wondering, why does the absence of a mint mark matter? The answer lies in how the U.S. Mint operates. Coins produced in Philadelphia traditionally did not carry a mint mark, while Denver coins carried a D, and San Francisco coins an S. For many years, collectors and dealers paid special attention to mint marks because they help identify where the coin was struck, which in turn affects rarity. Some years had lower mintages in certain locations, which immediately made those coins more collectible. In the case of 1974, millions of pennies were struck in Philadelphia, but the real value lies not in rarity of production, but in condition and preservation. Coin grading is everything when it comes to value. A penny that has been in circulation, passed from hand to hand for decades, will show obvious signs of wear, scratches, smoothing of details, and dull color. Such coins are typically only worth face value. But if a coin has been preserved in pristine condition, perhaps never circulated at all, then collectors will pay far more for it. This is where the world of mint state and proof coins comes into play. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC assign coins a grade on a 70-point scale. The higher the grade, the more flawless the coin. A 1974 no mint mark Lincoln penny graded MS 65 or higher is considered exceptional, with sharp detail, bright luster, and little to no contact marks. These are the coins that make collectors' hearts race, and these are the coins that bring serious money at auction. But there's another factor that can boost the value of a penny: errors. Minting errors happen when something goes wrong during the production process. A coin may be struck off center, double struck, or missing certain elements. In the case of the 1974 no mint mark penny, collectors have discovered examples with doubling on the obverse, known as a doubled die. This means that parts of the lettering or design appear doubled, giving the coin a distinct and valuable appearance. Such errors are highly sought after, and depending on the severity and visibility of the doubling, they can significantly increase the coin's worth. Let's step back and think about this for a moment. Imagine holding in your hand a penny that millions of people have overlooked, yet collectors around the country are desperately searching for one in pristine condition or with a rare error. This is the thrill of coin collecting, the idea that treasure might be hiding in plain sight, tucked away in a coin jar or resting at the bottom of a drawer. The history of coin collecting itself is tied to this excitement. Throughout the decades, certain coins that were once considered ordinary suddenly became famous due to discoveries of errors or high auction sales. The 1974 no-mint mark penny fits into this tradition perfectly. It's not just about the metal, it's about the story behind the coin, the journey it has taken, and the rarity of finding one in top condition. Collectors often emphasize patience and persistence. You could search through thousands of pennies before finding one worth keeping, but when you do, the reward can be immense. And for the 1974 no-mint mark penny, the market has proven that collectors are willing to pay top dollar for quality. This is why it's so important to check your change, to look carefully at those coins you might otherwise ignore. You never know when a valuable piece of history might land in your pocket. Now, some of you might be wondering, what should you look for if you want to determine whether your 1974 penny is valuable? First, examine the coin under good lighting. Look for clarity in Lincoln's profile, sharpness in the lettering, and brightness in the fields. If the coin looks nearly flawless, it might be worth sending to a grading service for professional evaluation. Next, check for errors. Look closely at the words, Liberty, and In God We Trust, for signs of doubling. Finally, consider the coin's overall luster. A well-preserved penny will have a shine that sets it apart from the dull brown tones of heavily circulated coins. And here's the key: the marketplace sets the value. Auction records and private sales show that these coins can reach impressive amounts when they are in high grade or contain a rare error. Collectors know that not all 1974 pennies are created equal, and they are willing to pay a premium for the best of the best. So, the next time you glance at a penny, don't be too quick to dismiss it. That small coin could be a piece of numismatic history, a reminder that value often hides in the most unexpected places. Every coin has a story, and some of those stories are worth far more than a single cent. And as for the 1974 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny? In the right condition, one of these coins has been valued at an incredible $32,009. Welcome back to another fascinating journey into the world of American coins, where tiny copper treasures hide enormous stories of history, design, and unexpected fortune. Today, we are going to uncover the secrets of the 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, this coin looks like just another ordinary cent, something you might have received in your change at a grocery store decades ago. But when you take a closer look at the history, the details, and the rarity of certain versions of this coin, you'll realize that a simple penny can carry with it a story worth more than anyone could ever imagine. Before we dive deeper, let's think about something interesting. Every coin we use in our daily life is more than just a piece of metal. It's a time traveler, carrying years of history in its copper, nickel, or silver surface. Each cent, nickel, dime, or quarter has been passed from hand to hand, through countless people, through different eras of American life. Some of these coins end up in old jars, forgotten in drawers, or tossed aside in piggy banks. Yet, hidden among the millions are special coins that collectors and enthusiasts would pay thousands of dollars to own. The 1978 penny is one of these very coins. So, what makes this penny so special? Let's start with the basics. The year 1978 was an interesting time in American history. The economy was shifting, inflation was a concern, and people were beginning to notice how much the value of money was changing in daily life. Gasoline, food, and rent prices were climbing, but at the same time, the penny remained the smallest coin in circulation. For the U.S. Mint, the penny wasn't just a coin. It was a symbol of continuity, of tradition, and of Lincoln's enduring place in American culture. The design of the penny in 1978 was the same one introduced in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln on the centennial of his birth. Victor David Brenner, the talented sculptor who created the design, never could have imagined that his portrait of Lincoln would remain on American coins for more than a century. By 1978, his design had already been in circulation for nearly 70 years, and Americans had grown deeply accustomed to seeing Lincoln's face on their smallest denomination dot on the front, or the obverse, of the coin. You'll notice Lincoln's dignified profile facing right. Above his head are the words, "In God We Trust," while to his left appears the word, "Liberty," and to his right, the date, 1978. Now here's where things get interesting. Many coins will have a tiny letter under the date, such as D for Denver or S for San Francisco, showing where the coin was minted. But on some coins, there's no mint mark at all. That's the 1978 no mint mark penny, which indicates that the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Most people don't realize that Philadelphia, being the first and oldest U.S. mint, didn't use a mint mark for coins during that era. That's why if you have a 1978 penny with no mint mark, it was struck in Philadelphia. While millions were produced, not all of them are equal in value. Condition, rarity, and historical significance separate ordinary pocket change from a collector's dream. Let's turn the coin over and look at the reverse. The back of the 1978 penny displays the iconic Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. This replaced the earlier, wheat ears, reverse. If you look very closely at the memorial with a magnifying glass, you can actually see a tiny outline of the statue of Lincoln sitting inside the memorial, just like the real monument in Washington, D.C. This tiny detail fascinated collectors when it was first introduced, and even today, it's one of those little features that shows the craftsmanship and attention to detail in U.S. coinage. Now, you might be wondering, if millions of these coins were made, why would one be valuable at all? The answer lies in rarity, condition, and errors. The world of coin collecting, also called numismatics, places enormous value on coins that stand out from the rest. Most 1978 pennies in circulation today are worth face value, just 1 cent, especially if they're worn, scratched, or damaged. But certain conditions and varieties make this coin far more valuable. First, let's talk about condition. Coin collectors use a system called the Sheldon grading scale to measure the quality of a coin. It ranges from 1, which is poor, all the way to 70, which is a perfect, flawless coin with no signs of wear. A 1978 penny that has been sitting in circulation for decades, passed from person to person, will likely have scratches, dull surfaces, or worn-out details. Such a coin isn't worth more than face value. But if you happen to find a 1978 penny that has sharp details, shiny luster, and no visible signs of damage, you might have something far more valuable in your hands. Next, let's discuss errors and varieties. Sometimes, when coins are struck, mistakes happen. Dies can crack, letters can double, or the alignment might be off. Collectors absolutely love these errors because they're one of a kind. Imagine finding a penny where Lincoln's profile is doubled, or where part of the lettering is missing. These unusual mistakes can increase the value dramatically. One of the most sought-after types of 1978 pennies includes double-die obverse coins, where the letters or numbers appear to have a shadowed, doubled look. Others include off-center strikes, where the design isn't properly aligned, leaving part of the coin blank. These fascinating errors often slip through the mint's quality control and end up in circulation, making them rare finds today. But rarity isn't the only factor. Timing also matters. Coins from the late 1970s and early 1980s carry an interesting place in American coinage because of the material they were made from. The 1978 penny was composed primarily of copper, 95% copper, in fact, and 5% zinc. Just a few years later, in 1982, the mint switched to using mostly zinc with only a thin copper coating because copper had become too expensive. This means that older copper pennies, like the 1978 version, are particularly interesting to collectors who value their metal content as well as their history. Imagine for a moment finding a jar of old coins in your grandparents' attic. You pour them out onto the table, and among the nickels, dimes, and other pennies, you spot a 1978 penny with no mint mark. At first, it looks like nothing. But under the right lighting, with the right inspection, you realize it has barely any wear, perhaps even a mint state grade. Suddenly, what once seemed ordinary becomes extraordinary. That's the magic of coin collecting, discovering hidden treasures where most people see only pocket change. Over the years, collectors have sent thousands of 1978 pennies to professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, hoping to get a high grade. The higher the grade, the higher the price the coin can fetch at auction. And while most 1978 pennies may be worth only a few cents or $1 in uncirculated condition, the rarest, most pristine examples, or those with special errors, have been known to reach astonishing prices when placed in front of eager collectors. It's a reminder of something powerful. Value isn't always about what something is made of. After all, a penny is just copper and zinc, metals that aren't particularly rare. But the history, the mistakes, the rarity, and the condition transform a simple coin into a collectible worth hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars. Coins are like tiny historical documents. They tell us who we were, what we valued, and how we lived during a specific moment in time. A 1978 penny reminds us of the economic struggles of the 1970s, of Lincoln's enduring presence as a symbol of unity and freedom, and of the craftsmanship of the U.S. Mint.So. The next time you come across a penny, don't dismiss it as worthless. Take a closer look. Examine the details, the mint mark, the date, and the condition. Who knows? You might be holding on to something extraordinary, a small copper disc that tells a big story. And when it comes to the 1978 no mint mark Lincoln penny, some of these coins have achieved auction results that stun the collecting world. The most valuable examples ever discovered have sold for as much as $47,776. The story of the Lincoln penny is one of the most fascinating chapters in American coinage. For over a century, this humble copper coin has carried with it not only the image of one of the nation's greatest presidents, Abraham Lincoln, but also stories of history, mystery, and surprising value. Among the many varieties of the Lincoln cent, one particular issue has captured the attention of collectors, treasure hunters, and everyday people hoping that the loose change in their pocket might be worth a fortune. Today, we dive deep into the history, details, and extraordinary value of the 1980 no mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. Let us begin with the origin of the Lincoln penny itself. The cent was first introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the coin was revolutionary. Until then, no American coin had ever featured a real person, especially a president, but Lincoln's enduring legacy made him the ideal choice. Over time, the penny has gone through changes in composition, design, and minting techniques, but it has always remained a familiar coin in the hands of millions of Americans. Fast forward to 1980. The United States Mint was producing billions of pennies each year at its various locations, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each mint usually left a small mark, known as a mint mark, on the coin to indicate where it was struck. Coins from Denver carried a D. Those from San Francisco carried an S. And the Philadelphia Mint traditionally left no mint mark at all. For many years, this absence of a mint mark was standard for Philadelphia coins, but by 1980, small variations in minting and the growing popularity of coin collecting meant that certain no mint mark coins became extremely desirable. The 1980 no mint mark penny is one such example. At first glance, it may look like any other Lincoln cent from the late 20th century. The obverse bears the familiar bust of Abraham Lincoln facing right, with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," along the top rim, "Liberty," to the left, and the date 1980 to the right. On the reverse, the coin features the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo, with the words, "United States of America," and "E Pluribus Unum," along the top, and the denomination, 1 cent, at the bottom. But what separates this particular coin from the billions of others is the missing mint mark that should have indicated where it was struck. Now, while Philadelphia did not typically place mint marks on pennies until 2017, certain no mint mark errors and varieties stand out to collectors. The 1980 no-mint mark penny has become one of those highly sought-after issues, not because every Philadelphia penny is valuable, but because certain examples exhibit high-quality strikes, unusual errors, or near-perfect preservation. One key reason collectors chase this coin is its connection to the transitional era in minting. In 1980, the mint was still using a primarily copper composition for pennies, 95% copper and 5% zinc. This made the coins heavier, richer in color, and distinct from the later zinc-based pennies that would appear just 2 years later in 1982. The shift from copper to zinc makes copper pennies from the late 1970s and early 1980s especially desirable. Many collectors focus on acquiring coins from these years, and the absence of a mint mark on certain 1980 examples gives them an added layer of rarity. But let us go deeper. In the world of coin collecting, condition is everything. A coin found in circulation, worn down from decades of handling, may be worth only a cent or two. But a coin in mint state condition, shiny, sharp, and virtually flawless, can fetch extraordinary prices. The grading scale used by collectors runs from poor, at the lowest, to mint state 70, a perfect coin with no visible flaws under magnification. Most coins fall somewhere in between, but those few that survive in high mint state grades can be worth far more than their face value. For the 1980 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, collectors look especially for coins that grade MS-65 or higher. These coins display strong luster, minimal contact marks, and precise detail in Lincoln's hair, beard, and coat. Some examples also display what is known as a full strike, meaning that every feature of the design was fully struck by the die. Such details elevate the coin into a higher category of desirability. Another fascinating aspect of the 1980 no-mint mark penny is the possibility of errors and die varieties. Errors occur when something goes wrong during the minting process, such as double strikes, off-center strikes, or die cracks. These mistakes can turn an ordinary penny into a valuable collectible. Some 1980 pennies show double die varieties, where the inscriptions or features appear doubled due to a misalignment in the die creation process. Others may exhibit repunch dates or unusual die wear, making them even more attractive to error collectors. Because billions of pennies were minted in 1980, you may be wondering how to identify one that is truly valuable. The answer lies in careful examination. Collectors recommend looking at the date under magnification, checking Lincoln's profile for sharpness, and examining the overall surface of the coin for scratches or blemishes. Coins that appear crisp and untouched, with no signs of circulation, are the ones most likely to command high prices. Over the decades, stories have circulated of people discovering valuable pennies in pocket change, coin jars, and even old piggy banks. It is this possibility of hidden treasure that makes the Lincoln cent so exciting. Imagine rummaging through your loose change and finding a coin worth thousands of dollars. That dream drives countless hobbyists to check every penny they encounter, hoping for that one rare find. The demand for the 1980 no-mint mark penny has steadily grown as collectors seek to complete their Lincoln cent sets. Many collectors specialize in 1-cent coins, building collections that span decades and include every date, mint mark, and variety. The 1980 no-mint mark coin fits into these collections as a transitional piece, representing the last years of predominantly copper pennies before the great shift to zinc. Its uniqueness and the stories surrounding it make it a centerpiece for many numismatic enthusiasts. Auction records provide some of the most compelling evidence of this coin's value. Over the years, pristine examples of the 1980 no-mint mark penny have crossed the auction block, fetching prices far beyond what most people would ever imagine for a 1-cent coin. Collectors with deep pockets are willing to pay top dollar for coins in exceptional condition, knowing how rare they are and how unlikely it is to find another of equal quality. The story of the 1980 penny is also a reminder of the importance of history in coin collecting. Each coin is not just a piece of metal, but a miniature time capsule, carrying with it the economic conditions, artistic choices, and cultural values of its era. In 1980, the United States was facing inflation, shifts in manufacturing, and debates about the rising cost of producing pennies. All of these issues contribute to the significance of the coin today. What should you do if you come across a 1980 no-mint mark Lincoln penny? First, handle it carefully. Avoid touching the surfaces with your fingers, as the oils from your skin can leave permanent marks. Place the coin in a protective holder, and if you believe it is in exceptional condition, consider having it graded by a professional service. Grading not only provides authentication but also gives the coin an official grade that can greatly increase its value on the market. Coin collecting has always been about more than money. It is about the thrill of discovery, the preservation of history, and the connection to generations past. The Lincoln penny, especially rare and unusual varieties like the 1980 no-mint mark, embodies all of these elements. It reminds us that even the smallest objects can hold great significance, and that treasures often hide in plain sight. As we conclude this exploration of the 1980 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, one thing is certain: its value extends far beyond a single cent. For collectors, historians, and ordinary people alike, it represents a chance to touch a piece of America's story and perhaps even stumble upon a life-changing find. And while most pennies may only be worth their weight in copper, this particular coin has been known to command extraordinary prices at auction, with the finest examples selling for as much as $34,998. The story of the American penny has always fascinated collectors, historians, and everyday people who sometimes discover that the smallest coin in their pocket change could be worth far more than its face value. Among the countless coins that have been minted in the United States, some stand out not only because of their age but also because of the unique circumstances surrounding their creation. The year 1982 is a perfect example of such a turning point in American coinage history. The 1982 D. Lincoln 1-cent penny is not just another coin, it is a small metal disc with a big story, a story that continues to captivate the world of numismatics. When most people think of valuable pennies, their minds often drift to older examples like the 1909 SVDB or the 1943 copper penny. But the truth is that the 1982 pennies, and specifically the 1982 D mint mark variety, are some of the most interesting coins ever produced in the modern era. They carry with them a legacy of change, mistakes, and rarity that together form the perfect storm for creating a collectible that serious coin enthusiasts continue to hunt for to this very day. To truly understand why the 1982 D penny is so special, we need to step back in time to the early 1980s. At that time, the United States Mint faced a serious problem: the rising cost of copper. For decades, Lincoln pennies had been made primarily of copper, giving them their rich reddish-brown color and distinctive metallic feel. However, by 1982, the cost of copper had risen so much that the metal content in each 1-cent coin was actually worth more than the coin's face value. Producing copper pennies was literally costing the government money. This presented the mint with a dilemma. How could they continue to produce pennies at a reasonable cost without completely disrupting the look and feel of the coin that had been a staple in American wallets since 1909? The solution was to switch the composition of the penny from nearly pure copper to a copper-plated zinc design. The new pennies would still look the same, maintaining the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back, but instead of being almost entirely copper, they would now be made of a zinc core with a thin layer of copper plating. The transition, however, was not smooth. Because the switch happened in the middle of 1982, both copper pennies and copper-plated zinc pennies were produced in that same year. This created an incredible number of varieties, including large date and small date designs, different mint marks, and most importantly, errors that slipped into circulation as a result of the change. The Denver Mint, identified by the D mint mark under the date, played a key role in this story. It produced millions of pennies in 1982, but among them, certain varieties and mistakes are what attract the attention of collectors. The most famous of these is the rare 1982 D small date copper penny, which should not technically exist. Because Denver was supposed to mint its small date variety only in zinc, the discovery of copper examples shocked the numismatic community. These coins are genuine mistakes, accidents that slipped through the cracks of history, and their rarity has made them extremely desirable in the market. Collectors love coins that tell a story, and the 1982 D penny certainly does. Imagine a coin that was never supposed to be, a coin that represents the clash between old and new materials, between tradition and necessity. That is why these coins carry such weight in the collecting community. Each one is like a piece of living history, a reminder of a specific moment when the mint was forced to make a difficult decision and ended up creating one of the most fascinating modern rarities. The thrill of coin collecting often comes from the hunt itself. People dig through jars of change, old drawers, and even bank rolls of pennies in hopes of stumbling across one of these treasures. Unlike many other valuable coins that are almost impossible to find in circulation today, the 1982 pennies still show up from time to time, making the search even more exciting. There is something magical about the possibility that the very next penny you pull out of your pocket might be one of these rare varieties worth thousands of dollars. To separate the ordinary from the extraordinary, collectors rely on specific details. The weight of the coin is one of the most reliable ways to tell whether a 1982 penny is copper or zinc. Copper pennies weigh about 3.11 grams, while zinc pennies weigh only about 2.5 grams. This small difference is enough to reveal whether the coin you are holding is part of the old world of copper or the new era of zinc. Combined with the date style, large or small, and the mint mark, collectors can determine exactly what variety they have in hand. The 1982 small date copper penny is the ultimate prize among these varieties. Because so few are known to exist, each one that surfaces sends shockwaves through the coin collecting community. Stories of people discovering these coins in loose change or tucked away in collections always capture headlines, because they serve as a reminder that hidden treasures can still be found in the most ordinary of places. But it is not just rarity that makes these coins valuable, it is also condition. Like all collectibles, the better the condition of a coin, the higher its value. A 1982 penny that has been preserved in mint state condition, with its original luster and sharp details, can sell for an extraordinary amount compared to one that has been heavily circulated and shows signs of wear. Collectors often send these coins to professional grading services, which authenticate the coin, verify its variety, and assign it a grade. The higher the grade, the more desirable the coin becomes to serious buyers. The legacy of the 1982 pennies has continued for decades. Collectors now view that year as one of the most important in modern numismatics, a year of transition that created opportunities for discoveries unlike any other. It is rare for a single year to produce so many varieties and mysteries, and that is why 1982 continues to be a focal point for those who love the hobby. What makes the story even more fascinating is the way it connects ordinary people to history. You do not need to be a professional collector or a historian to appreciate the excitement of finding a rare coin. For many, it starts with curiosity. Why does this penny look different? Why does it weigh more? Why does the date look unusual? That curiosity often sparks a lifelong interest in coins, history, and the stories hidden in our everyday money. The 1982 penny serves as a perfect example of how small details can make a huge difference. Two coins can look almost identical to the naked eye, yet one could be worth only a cent while the other could be worth a fortune. This is the magic of numismatics, the blending of history, rarity, condition, and chance into a hobby that has fascinated people for centuries. Today, coin collectors continue to cherish and search for these special pennies. They know that the 1982 small date copper penny is not just another coin, it is a rarity born out of a historic transition, a mistake that turned into a treasure. It is proof that even in the modern age, when coins are produced by the billions with advanced technology, accidents can still happen, and those accidents can create something truly extraordinary. So, the next time you find yourself holding a handful of change, take a closer look at your pennies. Pay attention to the year, the mint mark, the style of the date, and if you can, the weight of the coin. Because hidden among the ordinary coins of everyday life might just be one of these incredible rarities that collectors around the world dream of finding. And when it comes to the 1982 Lincoln 1-cent penny, the value it can reach is nothing short of astounding. In fact, one of these coins has sold for an unbelievable $21,399. The story of coins is not just about copper, zinc, or nickel. It is about history, mistakes, rarity, and value that rises far beyond the face marked on them. Among the coins that have fascinated collectors in the United States, few are as intriguing as the Lincoln penny, a coin that has been in circulation for more than a century. When people think of treasure hunting, their mind may go to gold or silver, but in truth, many fortunes have been made by those who looked closely at the change in their pocket. And today, we turn our attention to one such coin that hides a surprising story, the 1983 D Mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, the 1983 D penny does not seem like much. It is small, light, and has been passed around millions of times across the country. People dropped it in vending machines, tucked it into piggy banks, or lost it between couch cushions without ever realizing the secrets some of them carried. For the everyday person, this penny was just another ordinary coin. But for those who know, the truth is far more exciting. Some of these coins hold extraordinary value, and their worth has nothing to do with inflation or savings, but with the rare circumstances of how they were struck at the Denver Mint in that year. To understand why this penny is so special, we need to go back to the story of the Lincoln cent itself. The Lincoln penny was first introduced in 1909, created to honor the centennial birth of President Abraham Lincoln. Before that, pennies carried designs such as the Indian head, but it was the Lincoln design, made by Victor David Brenner, that became a cornerstone of American coinage. Over the decades, the Lincoln penny has gone through many design modifications and, more importantly, several metal composition changes. These changes were not done for artistic reasons but for economic necessity, as the cost of metals rose and the government sought cheaper ways to produce money. This is where the year 1982 plays a critical role. Until that year, pennies were mostly made of copper, with each coin containing 95% copper and 5% zinc. But copper prices had risen so much that it cost nearly as much to make a penny as the coin was worth. The government decided it could no longer afford to keep producing cents from mostly copper. So, a change was made. Starting late in 1982, the penny would be struck with a core of zinc and only a thin outer layer of copper. The change was subtle to the eye but enormous to collectors. Suddenly, a year existed where both copper and zinc varieties of the Lincoln penny were struck. This created interest and confusion, as people began weighing pennies from 1982 to see which were copper and which were zinc. By 1983, the new zinc composition had fully taken over. Every penny struck at that time was supposed to be zinc with copper plating, and that is exactly what happened at the Denver Mint as well. But here is where the story of the 1983 D Mint Mark penny takes a fascinating turn. You see, not all coins are perfect. Mistakes can and do happen, and in the world of coin collecting, those mistakes often translate into enormous value. The 1983 D penny is notorious because of varieties and errors that emerged from the Denver Mint. Some coins displayed doubling on the lettering, a striking flaw known as a doubled die. Others had issues with how the copper plating adhered to the zinc core, leading to bubbles or odd surface textures. These imperfections, which would normally be overlooked or considered trash by everyday people, suddenly became prized by collectors. What's more, a few rare transitional pieces, or off-metal strikes, made it into circulation. These were coins that were accidentally struck on copper planchets left over from earlier years, even though the mint had already moved fully to zinc. Imagine the surprise of someone who discovered one of these rare coins. Something that seemed ordinary, a penny anyone might dismiss as worthless, suddenly revealed itself as a treasure worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. That is the thrill of numismatics, the study and collection of coins. Every coin has a story, but some stories are so unusual that they capture the imagination of people worldwide. The 1983 D penny sits right at this intersection of history, rarity, and curiosity. Millions of people own pennies from 1983, but only a fraction realize the potential of what they hold. It may have a small D under the date, marking it as a product of the Denver Mint, but it takes a careful eye and often a magnifying glass to know whether it is a simple cent or a piece of hidden fortune. Collectors hunt for these coins in circulation, in old rolls of pennies sitting in drawers, and in forgotten jars tucked away in attics. And once in a while, someone strikes gold by finding that special variety, The appeal of this coin is not just in its rare varieties but in the sheer fascination of how quickly something ordinary can become extraordinary. Think of it this way: a penny is the lowest denomination of American currency, so small and common that many people ignore them on the ground. Yet, with the right year, mint mark, and error, that same coin can carry a value that could change someone's life. What a beautiful irony, that the smallest coin, when rare, can be worth so much more than piles of larger denominations. For collectors, the hunt is part of the joy. It is about patience, careful observation, and knowledge. They know to look for doubling in the words, liberty, or, in God we trust, on the 1983 penny. They know to check for unusual weight differences that might signal a copper strike instead of zinc. They study the color, the luster, and even the smallest imperfections, because every detail matters in determining whether the coin in hand is a simple cent or a rare treasure. There is also something deeply American about the story of the Lincoln penny. It represents thrift, endurance, and the ability to find value in the smallest of things. Children once collected them in albums, filling little slots with each year's issue. Families passed jars of pennies across generations. And today, collectors continue that tradition, finding meaning in the history and legacy of coins. The 1983 penny is not just about its metal composition or its errors, but about what it represents: a piece of the past still circulating among us, carrying stories in silence until someone takes the time to listen. The more one studies coins, the clearer it becomes that they are tiny time capsules. They carry the faces of presidents, the marks of mints, and the scars of their creation. Each scratch tells a tale of where the coin has been, whether it bought candy in a small-town store, sat in a soldier's pocket overseas, or lay hidden in a dusty drawer for decades. The 1983 penny, with its unusual errors and rare versions, is a reminder that every coin deserves a second look. Now, let us come back to the most exciting part: the value. Collectors and auction houses have seen extraordinary prices paid for the rarest examples of the 1983 penny. While ordinary circulated coins are still worth face value, those with errors, especially doubled dies or rare copper strikes, have reached jaw-dropping prices. Stories of people turning a 1-cent coin into a financial windfall fuel the passion of collectors everywhere. And in the world of numismatics, that passion never fades, because as long as coins exist, there will always be mysteries to uncover and treasures to find out. So, the next time you hold a penny in your hand, do not dismiss it as small change. Look closer. Check the date. Check the mint mark. Because what you might be holding could be more than just a cent. It could be history, rarity, and value all pressed into a single small piece of metal. And for the 1983 mint mark penny, that value has been proven in remarkable ways. In fact, some of the most prized examples of this coin have sold for an astonishing amount. One such rare 1983 mint mark Lincoln penny reached a price of $35,567. Welcome to the channel, and today we're diving into one of the most fascinating stories in United States coin history, the 1983 mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, this coin might look just like any other ordinary penny you've seen in your pocket change. But as you're about to discover, hidden within its copper-coated surface lies a story of rarity, mistakes, and incredible collector demand. This is the kind of coin that makes people double-check every penny in their coin jar, just in case they stumble upon a small fortune. The story of the 1983 penny begins during an important transition period in American coinage. To understand why this little coin became so interesting to collectors, we need to go back to the early 1980s. Before 1982, Lincoln cents were struck primarily from a bronze alloy made of 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin. But by the late 1970s and early 1980s, the price of copper began to rise dramatically, in some cases making the intrinsic value of the metal inside a penny worth almost as much as the face value itself. This posed a problem for the U.S. Mint, which was spending more money to produce a penny than the coin was actually worth in circulation. To solve this, the Mint made a crucial change in 1982. They transitioned from the traditional copper-based composition to a new planchet, a coin blank made primarily of zinc with only a thin copper plating to give it the familiar reddish appearance. The change reduced production costs significantly, but it also created a number of interesting varieties, errors, and collector curiosities. The year 1982 is one of the most complex years in the Lincoln cent series because both copper and zinc cents were struck, with multiple varieties in small date and large date designs. By 1983, the mint had fully switched to the zinc planchet. All pennies struck from that year forward were supposed to be the lighter, copper-plated zinc version. However, this is where things get interesting. In some rare cases, transitional errors occur. That means a coin may have been struck on the wrong type of planchet, in this case, a leftover copper planchet from the previous year. Imagine that, a coin intended to be a simple zinc cent suddenly becoming a rare transitional error simply because of a leftover blank that found its way into the presses. The 1983 no-mint mark penny falls into this fascinating category. While most 1983 pennies are common and worth just 1 cent, certain examples struck in Philadelphia without a mint mark were produced on copper planchets instead of the intended zinc. How do collectors tell the difference? It comes down to weight. A normal 1983 zinc cent weighs about 2.5 grams, while a 1983 copper transitional error weighs approximately 3.1 grams, just like the pre-1982 bronze coins. That slight difference in weight is one of the key factors that makes all the difference between a coin worth face value and a coin worth thousands of dollars. Now, you might be wondering, why does this matter so much? After all, we're only talking about a difference in metal composition. The reason is rarity. Transitional errors like the 1983 copper penny are incredibly scarce, and collectors love coins that stand out from the ordinary. In the world of numismatics, rarity plus demand equals value. And when the story involves a major change in the mint's production process, that rarity becomes even more desirable. For the casual observer, the 1983 penny looks just like any other cent. The obverse, or front side, features the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of Lincoln's birth. This portrait has become one of the most iconic images in U.S. coinage history. On the reverse, we see the Lincoln Memorial design, introduced in 1959 to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Every detail looks ordinary, and that's part of the magic. The rarity is hidden in plain sight, invisible to the naked eye unless you weigh the coin carefully. Over the years, collectors and treasure hunters have searched relentlessly for these transitional error cents. Stories circulate of people finding them in their pocket change, tucked away in old piggy banks, or mixed into jars of coins that hadn't been sorted for decades. Imagine the excitement of discovering that a simple penny you thought was worth virtually nothing could suddenly be worth thousands. That thrill of the hunt is what drives so many collectors to check every coin that passes through their hands. Another layer of fascination with the 1983 penny is how its existence highlights the human side of minting. The U.S. Mint is a massive operation with precise machinery and strict quality control, yet mistakes still happen. Transitional errors, double dies, off-center strikes, all of these anomalies remind us that coins are not just pieces of metal, but tiny historical artifacts that capture the challenges, changes, and sometimes even the mistakes of their era. The 1983 no-mint mark penny tells us a story about an economy struggling with rising metal costs, a government adapting to changing circumstances, and the unintended results that make collecting so exciting. What makes the 1983 transitional cent even more valuable is the role of professional grading. When coins like this are discovered, they are often sent to third-party grading services such as PCGS or NGC, where experts authenticate the coin and assign it a grade based on its condition. The higher the grade, the more valuable the coin becomes. Collectors are willing to pay a premium for coins that not only carry historical significance but also survive in pristine condition despite decades of circulation. Over the past several decades, some examples of the 1983 no-mint mark copper cent have been sold at auctions, shocking even seasoned collectors with the hammer prices they achieve. Each time one of these coins surfaces, it generates excitement in the numismatic community and often grabs the attention of mainstream media. Suddenly, people everywhere are emptying their coin jars, weighing their pennies, and hoping to strike gold, or rather, copper point. One of the great things about this story is that it makes coin collecting feel accessible to everyone. You don't need to be a millionaire to start checking your change. You don't need to own rare gold coins or ancient currency to participate. All it takes is a little curiosity, a scale, and some knowledge about what to look for. The idea that a fortune could be hiding in a handful of pennies is inspiring, and it brings new people into the hobby every year. When we look at the 1983 penny, we're not just talking about a coin. We're talking about a piece of American history, a symbol of economic changes, and a reminder that small details can have enormous consequences. It's a coin that teaches us to pay attention, to value what seems ordinary, and to remember that even the tiniest objects can carry big stories. Collectors today continue to hunt for these elusive transitional errors, and the 1983 penny remains one of the most sought-after examples. Its appeal lies in its mystery, its rarity, and the fact that it challenges us to look more closely at the things we take for granted. Who would have thought that something as simple as weighing a penny could reveal a treasure? So the next time you have some change in your pocket, don't overlook those dull brown cents. Take a closer look. Grab a small digital scale and check the weight. You never know when history might fall into your hand. The 1983 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny reminds us that hidden value can exist where we least expect it, and that ordinary things sometimes hold extraordinary worth. And here's the part that really captures everyone's imagination. While most of these pennies are only worth a cent, the rare transitional era versions struck on copper planchets instead of zinc have commanded jaw-dropping amounts when authenticated and sold at auction. One such example of the 1983 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny has sold for an astonishing $39,998. Welcome back to our channel, where we uncover some of the most fascinating stories in the world of coins, currency, and hidden treasures that might be sitting in your pocket right now. Today's episode is about a very special coin that most people overlook because it looks so ordinary, yet it carries with it a story of rarity, history, and incredible value. We're talking about the 1985 no-mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin that may appear simple at first glance but can secretly be worth a small fortune if you know what to look for. Now, before we dive into the exciting details of this coin, take a moment and think about this. How many pennies have you seen or touched in your lifetime? Probably thousands, right? Pennies are everywhere. They jingle in our pockets, hide between couch cushions, and pile up in piggy banks. But here's the secret. Among these countless coins, there are rare and valuable ones hiding in plain sight. The trick is knowing which ones to keep and which ones to spend. The 1985 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is one such coin that many collectors dream of finding. Let's start with the basics. The Lincoln penny has been around since 1909, when it was first struck to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the obverse, or front, of the coin proudly features the bust of Lincoln, while the reverse originally displayed 2 wheat stalks, earning it the nickname Wheat Penny. In 1959, the reverse was changed to the Lincoln Memorial design to mark Lincoln's 150th birthday. And it is within this design, continuing through the 1980s, that our 1985 penny fits in. By 1985, pennies were being struck in 2 different compositions. Up until 1982, pennies were mostly made of 95% copper, but due to rising copper costs, the United States Mint decided to switch to a copper-plated zinc composition. That meant pennies made after mid-1982 contained only a thin layer of copper over a core of zinc. This change not only made the coins lighter but also opened the door for new minting challenges, errors, and variations that collectors are fascinated by. The 1985 Lincoln pennies were struck in huge numbers, both at the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. Typically, coins struck in Philadelphia carried no mint mark, while those made in Denver were stamped with a small d. But here's where the story becomes interesting. Normally, Philadelphia cents with no mint mark are extremely common and hold no special value. So what makes the 1985 no mint Mark Lincoln penny so different? Why is this ordinary-looking coin suddenly a collector's prize? The answer lies in rarity, condition, and historical quirks in the minting process. While billions of pennies were struck in 1985, only a very small fraction were produced with the sharp detail, flawless surfaces, and unique characteristics that would allow them to stand out as exceptional. Over the years, most of these coins entered circulation, suffering scratches, wear, and damage that erased their chance of ever becoming valuable. But the rare few that survived in pristine, uncirculated condition tell an entirely different story. These coins, often preserved by collectors or discovered in sealed rolls, can command astonishing sums at auction. What makes this even more captivating is the hunt. Imagine being an everyday person, sifting through spare change or emptying an old coin jar, and suddenly spotting a penny from 1985. At first, you think nothing of it. After all, it looks like just another coin. But then, upon closer inspection, you notice the absence of a mint mark and realize that if it's in top condition, you may be holding on to something extraordinary. That moment of discovery is what drives so many collectors to search tirelessly through pocket change. Now let's talk about grading, because grading is everything when it comes to determining the value of coins like the 1985 no mint mark penny. Coin grading refers to the process of evaluating a coin's physical condition, from heavily worn to absolutely flawless. The grading scale runs from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect coin with no visible flaws under magnification. For common coins like the Lincoln penny, only those graded near the top of this scale can reach sky-high values. That's because rarity isn't just about how many were minted, it's about how many have survived in exceptional condition. So, what are collectors and grading experts looking for in the 1985 penny? First, a sharp and clear strike. The details in Lincoln's hair, the clarity of his bow tie, and the definition in the Lincoln Memorial are all carefully examined. Next, the coin must be free of scratches, spots, or discoloration. Even the tiniest imperfection can lower the grade and, therefore, the value. Finally, the coin should have original luster, that shiny and reflective quality that freshly minted coins possess. Coins that meet these demanding standards become true collector's items. The story doesn't stop there. Another factor that adds to the intrigue of the 1985 penny is the presence of known minting errors and varieties from that era. Collectors love error coins because they are unique and scarce by nature. Some 1985 pennies have been discovered with doubled dies, off-center strikes, or other unusual features. These coins often sell for more than their face value, even in lower grades. But when you combine an error with high-grade preservation, the price can soar into staggering figures. To give you a sense of the excitement this creates in the coin collecting community, imagine attending a major coin auction. Collectors gather from all over the country, eyes fixed on the stage as rare coins are presented one by one. The auctioneer announces the arrival of a 1985 no mint mark Lincoln penny in pristine condition, certified by a top grading service. The room buzzes with anticipation. Bidders raise their paddles, and the numbers climb higher and higher, far beyond what anyone would expect for a simple 1-cent piece. In moments like these, it becomes crystal clear just how special and valuable this coin truly is. And here's the part that captures the imagination of casual coin hunters everywhere: you don't need to be a millionaire to find one. These coins are out there, hiding in circulation, tucked away in old coin collections, or sitting in dusty jars on kitchen shelves. All it takes is curiosity, patience, and a keen eye to spot the difference between an ordinary penny and a life-changing discovery. That's the magic of coin collecting. It transforms everyday objects into treasures with stories that connect us to history, craftsmanship, and even luck. Think about the historical backdrop of 1985 for a moment. It was a year filled with memorable events in America and around the world. Ronald Reagan was serving his second term as president. The Nintendo Entertainment System was just beginning to captivate kids across the country, and Michael Jordan was playing his rookie season in the NBA. The world was changing fast, yet millions of these pennies were quietly being struck and released into circulation. Most were forgotten, spent, or lost. But a tiny number survived, waiting for someone decades later to recognize their value. That's the kind of story that makes coin collecting more than a hobby. It makes it a time capsule of history. Now, let's come back to the coin in question. The 1985 no mint mark Lincoln penny is deceptively simple. On the surface, it looks no different from the billions of others that year. But under the scrutiny of expert eyes, it reveals itself to be rare, desirable, and potentially life-changing. Collectors who specialize in Lincoln cents place it high on their want lists, and for good reason. Every example in top condition represents a chance to own not just a coin, but a piece of numismatic history. So the next time you come across a penny from the 1980s, don't dismiss it as pocket change. Take a closer look. Examine the date, check for a mint mark, and study its condition. You never know, you might be holding something that could make your heart race and your wallet grow heavier. And that brings us to the most important question: what is a 1985 no-mint mark Lincoln penny actually worth today in the right condition? Here is the astonishing answer. While most 1985 pennies are worth only face value, a select few in flawless, high-grade condition have sold at auction for an incredible price of $45,888. Welcome back to World Information HD, the channel where we dive into the secrets of coins, history, and the rare treasures that may be hiding in plain sight. Today, we're about to explore something that looks ordinary to the naked eye, yet carries with it a fascinating story and a hidden fortune. I'm talking about the 1992 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. Yes, the coin that most people dismiss as a piece of pocket change, the one tossed into jars, forgotten in drawers, or spent at convenience stores without a second thought. But behind this penny lies a mystery and a potential payday that could change the life of anyone lucky enough to discover one. Let us step back for a moment and remember why the Lincoln cent has captured the imagination of coin collectors and history lovers alike. The Lincoln penny, first struck in 1909, was introduced to honor the centennial of President Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was a groundbreaking design because for the first time in American history, a real person appeared on the nation's coins. Up until that point, U.S. coinage had stuck to allegorical figures such as liberty. With Lincoln's portrait, everything changed. He became not just a face in history books, but a daily reminder of American ideals in every transaction. Fast forward to the 1990s. The Lincoln cent had already undergone decades of changes. It survived World War II with the famous steel penny of 1943. It transitioned in 1959 from the wheat reverse to the Lincoln Memorial reverse, marking another historic moment. And by the 1990s, the penny was struck in copper-plated zinc, no longer the heavy copper alloy it had once been. Collectors had their eyes on the series, watching closely for varieties, minting errors, and anomalies that turned simple coins into rare prizes. This brings us directly to the year 1992. Something unusual was happening at the U.S. Mint during this time. The dies used to strike Lincoln cents were being prepared for a design change that would officially arrive in 1993. The spacing between the letters of America on the reverse, particularly the letters A and M, had been adjusted. In some cases, prototypes of the new design were accidentally used earlier than intended. This is how varieties like the 1992 close AM and the 1992 D close AM came to be. But when we talk about the 1992 no-mint mark penny, we enter another layer of intrigue. Coins struck in Philadelphia generally do not carry a mint mark, and that is where the 1992 no-mint mark penny originates. On the surface, it looks like a typical penny, Lincoln's familiar profile on the obverse, the Lincoln Memorial standing tall on the reverse. But when numismatists examined these coins more closely, they discovered some bore characteristics that didn't match the regular production run. Whether due to dye varieties, slight changes in spacing, or even minute striking differences, the 1992 no-mint mark penny became a subject of fascination. Collectors realized that while billions of 1992 pennies were minted, only a handful carried the traits that set them apart. To understand why collectors care so much about small design differences, think of coin collecting as treasure hunting. The beauty lies in rarity. Billions of identical coins mean nothing special. But one coin with a subtle difference becomes unique, a standout, a tangible piece of history showing human error, experimentation, or transition at the mint. That uniqueness drives the value sky high, making it a target for sharp-eyed collectors. Imagine finding a 1992 penny while emptying your pockets at the end of the day. most people would drop it into a jar without a thought. But you, knowing its potential, decide to take a closer look. You notice the spacing, the finish, the subtle indicators that scream rarity. Suddenly, what was once a single cent could become a prized collectible worth thousands. This is the thrill of coin collecting. It is history, luck, and fortune combined in the palm of your hand. But let's go deeper. Why is the 1992 penny without a mint mark so elusive? Part of the answer lies in mintage numbers. While the U.S. Mint produced a massive number of pennies that year, only a limited fraction were struck using experimental dies or contained those subtle details collectors crave. That scarcity, combined with the natural wear and tear that coins endure in circulation, means only a small number survive today in high grades. Condition, or grade, is everything in the coin world. A 1992 penny found in pocket change might be circulated, scratched, or dulled from decades of use. While it still holds collector interest, the highest values are reserved for coins preserved in pristine condition, what collectors call mint state. Professional grading services such as PCGS and NGC authenticate and grade coins, giving buyers confidence in rarity and quality. Coins graded MS65 or higher can command extraordinary prices. This is why collectors and dealers often say, always check your change. Because once in a while, a rare coin slips through, undetected by the millions who touch it. It could be sitting in your piggy bank, stuck in an old wallet, or resting in a coffee can in the attic. And when it comes to the 1992 no-mint mark penny, that oversight could mean overlooking a small fortune. The fascinating part about the Lincoln Cent series is how it teaches us about history, economics, and the human side of minting. Each tiny detail, whether a misplaced letter, a doubled die, or a missing mint mark, tells a story about the mint's process, the changes in design, and the very evolution of U.S. currency. The 1992 penny is not just a coin, it is evidence of transition, an artifact that bridges one era of minting with the next. Collectors who specialize in Lincoln Cents know that the 1990s were full of interesting varieties. But few have captured attention like the 1992 issues. Whenever one of these coins appears at auction, the bidding wars erupt. Collectors are eager to outbid one another, knowing how seldom these coins appear in top condition. The buzz in the numismatic world spreads quickly, making headlines and inspiring casual hobbyists to re-examine their pocket change in hopes of striking gold, or in this case, copper-plated zinc. You might be wondering, what should you do if you think you have one of these rare pennies? The first step is to handle it carefully. Avoid cleaning it, as that can drastically reduce value. Place it in a protective holder or flip to prevent further wear. Then, compare it against trusted images of known varieties, paying close attention to design spacing, strike details, and surfaces. Finally, consider submitting it to a grading service for authentication. That certificate could be the difference between selling it as a curiosity and auctioning it as a prized rarity. The best part about this story is how it inspires people to look closer at the everyday objects around them. A penny is something most people ignore, even discard. Yet in the right circumstances, that penny could pay bills, cover college tuition, or change someone's financial future. It reminds us that hidden treasures aren't always buried deep underground or locked in vaults. Sometimes, they're jingling in your pocket right now. The coin market continues to grow, with collectors worldwide seeking out pieces of American history. As inflation reduces the purchasing power of a cent, the collectible value of rare pennies climbs ever higher. And with each passing year, coins like the 1992 no-mint mark penny only become rarer, as more are lost, damaged, or simply overlooked. That scarcity fuels their mystique and pushes their market value upward. So, the next time you see a penny lying on the sidewalk, think twice before walking past it. That little coin might not just be a cent. It could be a symbol of history, a product of minting quirks, and just maybe, a ticket to unexpected wealth. And now, the question you've been waiting for: how much could a 1992 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny be worth? At auction, in the right condition, collectors have paid as much as $23,948 for this seemingly ordinary coin. Welcome back to the channel, where we explore the fascinating world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and unbelievable stories from America's rich numismatic history. Today, we're diving deep into a coin that may look like an ordinary penny at first glance, but in truth, it hides secrets that could make it worth thousands of dollars. I'm talking about the 2003 Lincoln cent with the Denver Mint mark, the famous 2003 D penny. Now, you might be thinking, why would a coin minted in 2003, a relatively modern year, have any significant value? After all, we tend to associate valuable pennies with much older dates like 1909, 1914, 1922, or even the rare 1955 double die. But what makes coin collecting so thrilling is that rarity and value are not always tied to age. Sometimes, it's a matter of errors, varieties, condition, and unexpected quirks that turn a penny you'd normally spend at the grocery store into a hidden fortune. So let's unfold the story of the 2003 D Lincoln 1 cent penny, explore its history, its design, the significance of its minting, and why certain examples can fetch an incredible price at auctions today. First, let's talk about the background. The Lincoln cent has been in circulation since 1909, introduced to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the obverse proudly displays the profile of President Lincoln, a design that has remained a staple of U.S. coinage for over a century. For many Americans, the Lincoln penny isn't just loose change, it's a tiny piece of history in the palm of your hand. By 2003, the Lincoln penny was still being minted in massive numbers, with billions struck each year. The Denver Mint, which carries the D Mint mark, produced an enormous supply of these coins. Most of them circulated without issue, but as collectors know, whenever billions of coins are produced, the chances of minting errors and unique varieties multiply. That's where things get exciting. The 2003 D penny is composed primarily of zinc with a thin copper coating, a composition the U.S. Mint adopted back in 1982 to reduce costs. While this switch saved the government millions of dollars, it also introduced new challenges. Zinc-based pennies are prone to issues like plating blisters, weak strikes, and even die cracks, all of which can make specific coins stand out to collectors. Among the most desirable 2003 D pennies are those that exhibit striking mint errors. Imagine holding a coin with an off-center strike, where Lincoln's portrait is pushed to one side, leaving a blank crescent of unstruck metal. Or picture a double die variety, where lettering and details appear doubled, creating a ghostly effect that's instantly recognizable. These quirks are not only fascinating but also incredibly valuable to numismatists who prize uniqueness above all. But condition is equally important. In coin collecting, grade can make the difference between a coin being worth just a cent or being valued in the thousands. Coins graded as mint state, often denoted as MS by grading services like PCGS or NGC, are those that have never been in circulation. They retain their original luster, sharp details, and exhibit little to no wear. Among 2003 D pennies, those preserved in top condition are much scarcer than the billions that entered circulation and suffered the wear and tear of everyday use. What adds to the appeal of the 2003 D penny is the thrill of discovery. Collectors and even casual hobbyists can sometimes stumble upon these gems in pocket change, coin rolls, or old collections tucked away in drawers. The idea that an ordinary penny, struck in recent memory, can be worth thousands is what sparks so much enthusiasm in the world of coin hunting. It's the modern-day treasure hunt, with riches hidden in plain sight. To fully appreciate the 2003 D penny's journey to fame, we also need to consider how coin auctions work. When collectors bring rare or high-grade examples to market, bidding wars often erupt. What may have started as a coin found in a roll of pennies could end up commanding staggering prices once serious collectors recognize its rarity and condition. Over time, sales records help establish benchmarks for value, encouraging more people to search for these elusive treasures. The Denver Mint itself has a reputation for both precision and occasional quirks. Located in Denver, Colorado, this mint has been producing coins since 1906 and has played a key role in supplying the nation with circulating currency. Its mint mark, the letter D, is small yet significant, a detail that collectors use to identify where a coin originated. For Lincoln cents, Denver minted examples often carry unique characteristics, and 2003 was no exception. So, what specific features make a 2003 penny valuable? Let's list a few mint errors. These include off-center strikes, clipped planchets, broad strikes, die cracks, and doubled dies. Error coins from this year are highly sought after. High grades, coins graded MS67 or higher are rare for modern issues, and those that achieve such grades command strong premiums. Full red luster, copper-plated zinc pennies can discolor over time. Examples that retain their bright, original red luster are far more desirable. Low populations and registry sets. Collectors competing in registry sets want the very best coins for each date and mint mark. A top-graded 2003 penny can become a centerpiece in such a set. The beauty of this story lies in the fact that a 2003 penny, which many people overlook, can transform into a true collector's prize under the right circumstances. It reminds us that the world of coins is not just about old relics from centuries past. Value can be hidden even in coins that are only a couple of decades old. Think about it. How many of us have jars filled with pennies at home? How many coins slip through our fingers each day without a second glance? Yet among them could be a hidden gem, an overlooked 2003 Lincoln cent waiting to reveal its secret worth. This is why coin roll hunting and casual collecting have become such popular hobbies in recent years. The excitement comes not just from the potential financial reward, but from the sense of connection to history, design, and craftsmanship that coins represent. The Lincoln cent in particular holds a special place in the hearts of collectors. It is, after all, the longest-running design in U.S. history, and it represents ideals of liberty, resilience, and national pride. Each penny, no matter how small in denomination, carries with it a story of American identity. The 2003 penny, with its modern quirks and hidden rarity, is just another chapter in that ongoing narrative. So, the next time you come across a 2003 penny with a little D beneath the date, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look. Examine its color, its strike, and its details. You might just be holding on to something far more valuable than 1 cent. Collectors often emphasize patience, knowledge, and attention to detail. These are the skills that separate casual observers from those who discover true treasures. The story of the 2003 penny is proof of that lesson. A tiny coin, overlooked by millions, becomes a star in the eyes of those who recognize its rarity. And here's where the excitement reaches its peak. While most 2003 pennies are only worth face value, certain rare examples in pristine condition or with spectacular errors have sold for extraordinary amounts at auctions. One such penny, perfectly preserved and highly graded, stunned collectors when it reached a remarkable price, an incredible $18,309. Welcome back, everyone, to another exciting journey into the fascinating world of coins, where history, design, and value come together to tell incredible stories. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most intriguing and surprising coins from the United States Mint, the 2005 no-mint mark Lincoln 1 cent penny. At first glance, it might look like just another ordinary copper-plated coin you'd find in your pocket change, but what if I told you this coin has a hidden story, and in some rare cases, it has shocked collectors by fetching a price far beyond what most people could ever imagine for a simple penny? So sit tight, because we're going to unravel the details, the history, the errors, the minting process, and of course, the incredible value that makes this coin a true hidden treasure for collectors. Let's begin by setting the stage. The year 2005 was an important time for the United States Mint. The penny, which has been in circulation for over a century, continued to carry the portrait of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse. This design, introduced in 1909 to honor the centennial of Lincoln's birth, has been an enduring symbol of American coinage. By 2005, the Lincoln cent had already become one of the most widely produced and collected coins in American history. Now, if you pick up a typical penny minted in 2005, you'll notice one of two possible mint marks: a small D for Denver, or in many cases, no mint mark at all, which signifies that the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. That's right, Philadelphia traditionally does not include a mint mark on most circulating coins. This is why the 2005 no-mint mark Lincoln penny actually originates from Philadelphia. But here's where things get fascinating. Not every Philadelphia minted penny is worth more than face value, but under certain conditions, like exceptional errors, pristine condition, or collector demand, they can skyrocket in value. Now let's talk about the design itself. On the front, or obverse of the coin, you'll see the classic bust of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner. Lincoln's profile faces to the right, with the word Liberty engraved on the left side and the year 2005 on the right. Above Lincoln's head is the timeless national motto, "In God We Trust." For collectors, details like sharp lines in Lincoln's hair, the clarity of the lettering, and the shine of the coin are all important when grading the condition. On the reverse, 2005 pennies still featured the Lincoln Memorial design, which had been used since 1959. If you look closely at a sharp, well-struck coin, you can actually see a tiny statue of Lincoln seated inside the memorial, a small but brilliant detail that collectors love to point out. Above the memorial is United States of America, with the words E pluribus unum just below, and the denomination, 1 cent, at the bottom. This design, by Frank Gasparo, is one of the most iconic reverses in American coin history. But why is the 2005 no-mint mark penny such a big deal? After all, millions upon millions of pennies were produced that year. The answer lies in a combination of rarity, errors, and collector demand. First, let's look at errors. Coin errors are like accidents during production that slip past the mint's quality control. These errors make coins unique, and uniqueness in the coin world often translates to value. Some of the most desirable errors on 2005 pennies include off-center strikes, double die errors where parts of the design appear doubled, and coins struck on the wrong planchets. For example, if a penny was mistakenly struck on a dime or foreign coin blank, it becomes a rarity that collectors will pay serious money to own. Another important factor is the condition of the coin. Collectors often use a grading scale, from poor all the way up to mint state, or MS grades. A 2005 no-mint mark penny in circulation, worn down from years of use, is usually worth only a cent. But a coin preserved in perfect condition, with full luster and no scratches, can demand a premium price. For example, an MS-67 or MS-68 grade penny, which is nearly flawless under magnification, can turn a common coin into a collector's dream. Now let's explore the historical backdrop. By 2005, the U.S. Mint was preparing to celebrate upcoming changes to the penny. Just a few years later, in 2009, the coin would receive 4 different reverse designs to honor the bicentennial of Lincoln's birth and the centennial of the Lincoln cent. That meant the 2005 penny was among the final years to feature the Lincoln Memorial reverse before the major redesign. This adds an additional layer of historical importance, making these pennies more appealing to collectors who love transitional coins. Another interesting aspect is the sheer nostalgia connected to pennies. Many people who grew up in the early 2000s remember using them every day for small purchases, yet now, just 2 decades later, certain examples are turning into collector's items worth thousands of dollars. This sense of time and change makes the 2005 penny more than just a coin. It becomes a piece of personal and national history. So how do collectors identify a valuable 2005 no-mint mark penny? First, they look for pristine examples. Coins that were never circulated, often called uncirculated or mint state, hold the most potential. Second, they look for errors, things like double die obverse, repunch dates, off-center strikes, and clipped planchets. These mistakes from the mint turn ordinary coins into highly collectible rarities. And third, collectors pay attention to grading services. Professional organizations like PCGS and NGC certify coins, giving them an official grade. Having a coin certified increases buyer confidence and can significantly boost its value at auction. Speaking of auctions, this is where the magic really happens. Imagine someone who's been saving coins from their change, only to discover years later that one of their 2005 pennies has a rare error or is in perfect mint state. They submit it for grading, and it comes back with a high grade and rarity designation. Suddenly, That 1 cent coin, which most people would overlook or spend without a second thought, becomes the star of a bidding war. Collectors from around the country compete to add it to their collection, driving the price higher and higher. It's this thrill, the idea that something so ordinary can hold extraordinary value, that keeps coin collectors passionate and always searching. The 2005 no-mint mark penny is a perfect example of this phenomenon. Out of the millions minted, only a tiny fraction achieve the level of rarity, condition, and demand that make them worth thousands. And here's where we come to the moment you've been waiting for: the value. While most 2005 no-mint mark pennies you'll find in circulation are only worth face value, in rare cases, with the right errors and in the highest grades, they have been known to sell for truly shocking amounts. One such coin, a flawless example with outstanding condition and collector appeal, has reached the staggering price of $13,478. So the next time you come across a 2005 penny in your pocket change, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look. Examine the details, check for errors, and consider its condition. You might just be holding a tiny piece of history that could be worth far more than a single cent, and that, my friends, is the magic of coin collecting. Ordinary objects can transform into extraordinary treasures, all because of a mix of history, craftsmanship, and chance. Keep searching, keep collecting, and who knows, the next incredible discovery might just be hiding in the palm of your hand. Welcome back, coin lovers and treasure hunters, to another fascinating journey into the world of rare American coins. Today, we're going to talk about a coin that many people might overlook in their everyday lives, a coin that most of us have held countless times without realizing the hidden potential resting in the palm of our hands. That coin is none other than the 2008 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, it looks like an ordinary copper-coated zinc cent, but what if I told you that this unassuming piece of change has a story that intertwines history, rarity, and collector passion in a way that makes it far more valuable than you might think? When you picture the Lincoln cent, you probably imagine its familiar profile, the noble bust of Abraham Lincoln, facing right, designed by Victor David Brenner. For more than a century, this design has served as an enduring tribute to the 16th President of the United States, first released in 1909 during the 100th anniversary of his birth. Generations have grown up with it jingling in their pockets. But the 2008 version of this penny, especially without a mint mark, holds a certain mystique that sets it apart from the billions of pennies struck every year. Now, let's travel back in time for a moment to understand the background. By 2008, the Lincoln cent had already been minted for nearly 100 years. In fact, the year 2009 was scheduled to bring a major redesign to commemorate Lincoln's bicentennial, making the 2008 coin the last of an era. Collectors often treasure the final coins of a long-running design because they mark the end of a chapter in U.S. mint history. This is exactly why the 2008 penny has drawn so much attention, and why its details are worth exploring. So, what makes the no-mint mark version significant? Well, in coinage terms, the absence of a mint mark usually means that the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Philadelphia is the original birthplace of American coinage, and it has a long tradition of producing coins without mint marks, which is why you won't find a little P symbol on most pennies from that location. While Denver pennies proudly carry their D and San Francisco pennies display their S, Philadelphia pennies often go without. To the average person, this means nothing. But for numismatists, even the smallest variation in minting, errors, or unique runs can mean the difference between a penny worth face value and a penny worth a fortune. Now, let's take a closer look at the coin itself. The obverse, or front, bears the iconic image of Abraham Lincoln, as it has since 1909. On the reverse, we see the Lincoln Memorial in crisp detail, a design that has been in use since 1959, replacing the earlier wheat ears design. If you look closely at this reverse, you'll even notice a tiny depiction of the Lincoln statue inside the memorial, a delightful Easter egg that makes the design all the more fascinating. By 2008, this design was approaching its final bow, soon to be replaced by the special 2009 bicentennial reverses, and later, the Union Shield design in 2010. But the 2008 no mint mark penny isn't just special because of its place in history. The real intrigue lies in its rarity and the way collectors chase after coins that seem ordinary but hide exceptional qualities. For instance, certain 2008 pennies have been discovered with striking errors, off-center strikes, double dies, or unusual finishes. Errors like these are often the result of small mistakes during the minting process, and while the mint works hard to prevent them, a few always slip through the cracks. When they do, those coins instantly stand out, drawing the eyes of collectors who are always on the hunt for the unusual and the rare. It's fascinating to think about how these coins travel through the world. Imagine a coin struck in 2008 at the Philadelphia Mint. It rolls off the presses, joins thousands of others in heavy bags, and is shipped out to banks, stores, and businesses. Over the years, it passes from one hand to another, from a child's piggy bank to a vending machine, from a cashier's drawer to a coin jar sitting forgotten on a dresser. Somewhere along the way, someone with a keen eye notices that this coin, unlike others, carries a subtle detail or error that transforms it from ordinary change into a collectible prize. And that is when the magic happens. Collectors today understand that the Lincoln penny isn't just pocket change. It's a piece of American history, an artifact that tells the story of an entire nation. The 2008 penny stands at a crossroads, the final chapter of one design and the threshold of another. It captures the closing of one era and the anticipation of what comes next. This is why even common-looking examples are set aside, protected, and admired by those who know their significance. But here's the truth that often surprises people: not all pennies are created equal. While billions of 2008 pennies were produced, only a small fraction end up being graded and preserved in top condition. Grading agencies like PCGS and NGC evaluate coins for their quality, assigning grades that range from heavily circulated to mint state perfection. The higher the grade, the more valuable the coin becomes. A penny that has been rattling around in change for years might not be worth much more than face value, but a 2008 no mint mark penny in pristine condition, untouched by wear, can fetch a surprisingly high price at auction. And that brings us to the heart of the story: how much can this little coin actually be worth? To most people, a penny is worth only 1 cent. But for coin enthusiasts, the right penny can be worth hundreds, even thousands, depending on its rarity, condition, and collector demand. Imagine finding a coin in your change and realizing it could help pay off a bill, buy a new gadget, or even contribute to your savings. That's the thrill of coin collecting: ordinary change transforming into extraordinary value. Collectors know that part of the joy lies in the hunt. You might search through jars of pennies, rolls from the bank, or boxes filled with coins, and most of what you'll find will be ordinary. But every so often, you'll stumble upon that one coin, the one that seems almost identical to all the others yet hides a secret value. And when it comes to the 2008 no mint mark Lincoln penny, there are stories of collectors who have seen this very coin reach unexpected heights in value. The story of the Lincoln penny is also deeply personal for many people. It's a coin tied to childhood memories, first savings, and the simple joy of discovery. Some remember their grandparents teaching them to look for wheat pennies. Others recall digging through loose change in search of something special. And here we are, in modern times, still discovering that even a penny minted as recently as 2008 can surprise us with its hidden worth. So now, let's answer the question you've been waiting for. How much is the 2008 no mint mark Lincoln penny really worth in the world of collectors? While the value depends on condition, rarity, and demand, there have been instances where this coin, in exceptionally high grade and preserved with care, has sold for an astonishing amount. In fact, one such penny has been valued at $9,266.